Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Marketing Monday here on a Monday. Apologies in advance for my voice. I've been playing Elden Ring. No! Now, before we get into today's wins and fails, all the wins and fails in the past week of marketing and business, I have to give you a warning. And that warning goes out to all true American patriots in chat. Today's Marketing Monday is going to deal with Europe. We're gonna have to learn about things outside of America today for an extended period of time. Nitty-gritty details about the political process in Europe. Normally, Europe is this strange foreign land that only exists to be in the background of action movies. That's what Europe is for in my mind. But apparently it's also a place with hundreds of millions of people and an important economy to the world. And so we need to understand it. And today, in the spirit of friendship and US-European relations, we're gonna dive into what the hell's going on this past few weeks in Europe. Starting with Bonjour Paris, where I need to introduce you to two key figures in French politics. First one, Macron. Second one, Le Pen. These are real people. Macron is the current president of France and a bit of a centrist. Le Pen, bit more far right. Le Pen is the challenger. However, his popularity has been dipping ever since coming to power. The Olympics are approaching in Paris very soon. It's gonna be a big deal for France. Again, having the Olympics in your country is a big deal. And they have this big river, the Seine, that goes through the middle of Paris. And they were planning to do a lot of the Olympic swimming events live in the river, in the Seine. However, the Seine is dirty as shit. And I mean that literally, because it is connected to old sewer systems in Paris that run off into the river. And they have not been able to clean it up. They have spent billions of euros trying to clean it up, and yet there is still high levels of poop particles, literally, in the water. Are Olympians going to swim in poop water is a real question being asked. So, Macron promised that he was gonna get this fixed up by the time of the Olympics. He said, and it'll be so clean that me and the mayor of Paris are going to swim in that river to prove to you how clean it is. Well, the Olympics are almost here, and the big date of the swim was supposed to be yesterday. However, the French people, being the protesters they are, set up a website to count down to this day and plan for everybody who wants to make fun of these two politicians to shit in the water. So they are swimming in shit on the day. And it was detailed. It wasn't just the time and the minute you should shit in the water. It was also, if you lived far away from Paris, where you should shit that it would flow down the river and hit the and so they ended up not choosing to swim in the river as the memes went crazy of people installing toilets. So they ended up backing out of it and saying they would not swim in the river, citing political reasons. However, they said they will swim eventually. Eventually, though, is coming up very fast because, again, the end of the summer is when we start having the Olympics. So we're running out of time to get this river clean. Take a step back. What do you think of when I tell you about European Parliament? It's this. Boring. European Parliament is where each country in the EU elects some people to go represent their country at a European Parliament where they decide what they're going to do with the EU. And when I pictured it, I pictured the Galactic Senate from Star Wars. And it turns out pretty much that. It's not an incredibly important election, but every country in Europe holds it at the same time. And it gives us some indications as to what's going on politically all over Europe. What we're talking about today, though, is the French delegation, which I also assume looks like this. And these elections just happened. And in a stunning upset, Macron's party got crushed. And instead, Le Pen had a huge surge and got way more seats than they had before. Now, this is a pretty strong signal. This says something to Macron. And he, in response, did something pretty crazy. Within 1 hour of the results coming out that he had lost dramatically, he went on TV and dissolved the French parliament and called a snap new election. And then all hell breaks loose. How Macron threw his supporters into a panic by calling snap elections. Macron takes huge risk with surprise elections. Battered by the far right, Francis Macron bets big on risky snap election. Basically, the vote that we're talking about was for European Parliament. He is dissolving French Parliament, a separate thing. Currently, his party and his allies had a lot of the seats, but not an outright majority. But they were comfortable. And I need to explain something else, why this is so risky. Not only could they lose this majority in their seats, but the way French politics works is there is both a president and a prime minister. The president only has two real jobs: handling war and handling foreign policy. Basically anything outside of France is what Macron controls. The prime minister does everything else. The prime minister actually governs and runs the country. Things like taxes, things like social security, all of that is handled by the prime minister. And the prime minister is determined by which party has the most seats. So if these snap elections go poorly, he will be forced to replace his prime minister with this guy on the right, Le Pen's right-hand man. This guy is 28 years old and looks exactly like young Gru.
The Vicious Six wants to meet me. They haven't accepted me yet.
This guy will be the head of government for France if the polls hold up. Why did he do this? The European Parliament election was low stakes. And every one of these elections, the far-right party has been getting greater and greater numbers. They've been trickling up. He's basically saying, people of France, you need to decide, do you really want them in power? Were you letting off steam or did you really mean it? Both of the extreme parties in France are surging because he is an unpopular centrist president. He is warning of civil war. If they don't rally around him, then we're gonna have problems. Basically, he said this, chaos or me? In response, France said, chaos, please. The snap election call is turning out to be a pretty big disaster. Both the far left party and the far right party are crushing him in the polls. He may lose a significant number of seats and sort of collapse his coalition in France and his ability to govern, leading to him still being president, but having an entirely different prime minister who's going to disagree with him on everything. The reason I'm bringing this up is not just because I care about French politics, because this is a part of a larger story sweeping Europe and in fact the world in one of the largest election years ever. And that is that when people were asked why they finally, after all this time, decided to support Le Pen, who's been a figure in French politics forever, why finally support her? The answer was this. Having tried everything else, voters are finally willing to give the RN a try. That's basically it. If people are unhappy for long enough, they will try even the extreme examples. And it's happening all over Europe. Far-right parties in many EU parliamentary elections had huge surges. And I want to get into why I think this is, and it's because of a global problem where the average person is feeling stress or crunch from daily cost of living, rising inflation, housing costs. It wasn't just about embracing the right. Voters want to rebuke the policies that they felt weren't working for them. And I want to show you a specific thing that really brought that to light for me. See, in Germany, there has been a rise of a far-right party in Germany called the AfD. When America, we hear about a far-right party rising in Germany, we get scared. We don't know a lot, and I looked into it. So this was the results of the recent 2024 Euro Parliament election in Germany. Most of the country voted for their standard centrist party, CDU. The AfD, which is the far-right party, saw huge gains in this part of Germany. So there's a map you can draw where you can cut Germany in different parts and see the different stats for each part. When you cut this part off the graph, you get higher hours worked per year. You get lower salary. You get fewer millionaires. You get higher amounts of graffiti. You get basically the problems that are left over from East Germany. It's not a coincidence that the parts of Germany that are struggling the most are resulting in the most radical solutions. It is not enough to shame people for picking a party that I think for many moral reasons I disagree with, but I can't just shame them unless we can find a solution that gets them out of a cycle of poverty. I want to illustrate this by showing what's happening in the UK, which is the exact opposite. The Conservative Party, the right-wing party in the UK, is in power right now, and they are getting absolutely fucking shellacked. It is preparing to be a complete electoral wipeout, one of the worst in the history for the Conservative Party in the UK. And it's because the person they have in power is deeply, deeply unpopular. People in the UK are very mad at their situation and they want a change. He was asked about his childhood and the different kind of friends he has. He's trying to seem more in touch with the common man as a multi-hundred millionaire, wealthy political leader.
I have friends who are aristocrats, I have friends who are upper class, I have friends who are, working class, but I'm not working class. But I mix and match and then I go to see.
He laughed at the idea. Obviously, I don't have any working class friends. He also has the clip where he asks a homeless person if he owns his own business.
Well, do you work in a business? Do you want some fruit?
I'm homeless.
The guy is completely out of touch as the UK is going through a huge cost of living crisis. They are just screaming, we want a change. That is leading to a real tinderbox across the globe. Because again, this is the biggest election year in human history, and we are seeing radical changes we thought were impossible just a few years ago. And that brings me back to Macron. Maybe he was stupid to call this snap election, but there may have been more to his strategy than I thought, because I don't think he thinks he's gonna win. In fact, now I think he knows he was going to lose. He is in fact setting up to have a far-right prime minister and then can blame problems on them in 2027 when he runs for re-election. I am actually quite convinced that he is trying to give France a taste of them in government. Because when you're not in power, it is very easy to say how easy it would be to fix all the problems. Additionally, the rubber has to meet the road on some of these policies. And this goes for all countries globally. The fact is, a lot of parties, left-wing and right-wing, are promising a lot of stuff and promising no tax raises to afford it. They are promising a lot of spending and not a lot of ways to make money. And already that is causing problems in France. Just the idea that Le Pen could win the election is causing French bonds, basically IOUs, the government issues, to be damaged. I'll explain it simply. Imagine France as a friend. He's always borrowing money to buy baguettes. You go, okay, I'll give you the money. You always pay it back. You're fine. He even gives you a little interest. Now imagine that friend comes up to you and says, hey, I'm going to quit my job, which is basically lower taxes, and I'm going to start buying way more baguettes. Can I borrow more money? That's when you start to question, am I still going to get paid back? And France, which runs a really big deficit, is going to run into this problem. And so I'm explaining this to show you that's going to happen in other countries, including America, going forward, as we refuse to find a way to balance our budget. We just refuse to do it. Surprise offline update. A lot has happened since I recorded this Marketing Monday, and I want to give you an update. Specifically, the first round of voting in France. Whatever Macron's plan actually was, he has lost this vote badly. Le Pen's far-right party has made massive gains. Now, there's more rounds to come, but it seems like a almost certainty at this point that he's gonna have to share power with that party. What does that mean? We're not sure. But what has markets spooked is that the far-right party wants to increase spending without increasing taxes, and we're not sure how the French government can afford that. For that, I have a suggestion. Why not simply cancel the French government's Disney Plus account using today's sponsor, Rocket Money? Rocket Money is my longest running Marketing Monday sponsor. I'm super proud and happy to work with them. My community has used their product to great effect. Basically what it is you link your bank account. It shows you everything you're subscribed to, everything you're paying money for every month, and you can easily cancel these things with one click from the app. You'll often find that you have one or two things that you forgot you're paying for, and you can save a lot of money every year. In addition, it has really awesome budgeting and planning features if you want to go for the upgraded version of the app. I've personally used it to cancel over $200 in monthly subscriptions. If you want to check it out, go to rocketmoney.com/Atrioc, give it a try. That's rocketmoney.com/Atrioc. Thanks again for supporting Marketing Monday. Now let's see what happened with the French stock market after all of this. Speaking of France and money, their stock market was a little bit hammered by all this political turmoil, but I looked into it and what I found was very interesting. The vast majority of the French economy at the high end is luxury goods. That plus tourism is basically their economy. And the only real tech company they have that's like riding the recent waves is this new AI startup called Mistral, which got a 6.2 billion valuation. It's like one of the largest tech startups in Europe. So I looked into what Mistral does, and they are basically a Chat GPT clone called, I'm not kidding, Le Chat. A huge win to France. That is the dominating AI startup coming out of Europe. That's gonna change everything, a cultural victory. But it brings me to a different point that I want to talk about today. I have been seeing so much business and tech news about AI, and I recently read an article that was really refreshing to me. It was called, I will fucking pile drive you if you mention AI again. And I'm gonna link it in the description. This article is very good. It's by a data analyst who works in the industry, and it's basically saying we are receiving so many insane promises from companies all over about how AI is gonna change everything for their business and improve our lives. And yet, we have not seen any of that materialize. Almost nothing other than ChatGPT for copying homework has actually materialized, and hundreds of billions of dollars have been spent chasing this dream. Eventually, there has to be a product worth paying for, or this whole thing is going to go up in smoke. Some recent examples. Microsoft launched an AI chatbot that will recall everything you do on a PC. Basically, Microsoft said, we're going to take screenshots of your PC every single second of every single day, and then use AI to learn off those so you can use natural language to find things in your past. Yeah, everybody responded the same way and said, what the fuck? This is a security and privacy disaster. It was an extremely embarrassing launch for them, and they had to cancel the rollout. It was so funny because they announced this so confident, like everyone would love this. No, McDonald's rolled out AI drive-through voice ordering. They said this is gonna save them money and improve people's time. Customer service will be better. People started getting random, weird, hallucinated orders like bacon ice cream and sides of butter.
You added bacon to my ice cream. I don't want bacon.
What else can I get for you?
Someone repeatedly ordered Mountain Dew, but the system heard the words Diet Coke. The McDonald's drive-thru AI experiment began 2 years ago in a partnership with IBM, but according to the fast food company, the testing is officially over.
People are right to ask, if they look around, what is AI actually bringing me? Where's the life improvements that I was promised? Where's the utopia? And that's when one company came with a true breakthrough. A Marketing Monday win to Apple and their new AI, Apple Intelligence, baby. Doing what Apple is truly great at, which is doing something someone else has already done, but rebranding it. Apple Intelligence is actually just partnering up with ChatGPT that already exists and adding it to Apple phones. And then a couple little nifty Apple features on top. But it was funny watching that conference because Apple, I wondered if they were going to mention their previous toy, the Vision Pro, which seemed to be designed just to fuck with Mark Zuckerberg. A lot of news is coming out that it's been gathering dust and not selling. They mentioned it for briefly, all of 28 seconds.
Apple Vision Pro and Vision OS unlock completely new possibilities. Now, back to Tim.
And then immediately moved on to Apple Intelligence. Basically, what I did like about this was that everyone is starting to really hate AI. It is a brand that, like crypto, is starting to get a bad taste in people's mouth. And so Apple Intelligence is actually a smart branding move, similarly to when Apple zigged when everyone else zagged and focused on privacy. Again, there's not a lot of evidence that there's like a dramatic increase in privacy, but because they have that cool icon and lock screen, it's like they are the privacy company. And now for AI, they're saying we're private. We're different than the other AI companies. We're going to be private with your data. And that could work. Final thing they announced, just to give a win to Apple here, is that you can move your icons on the home screen. I believe has existed in Android for 20 years. So again, overall big win for Apple. Another person taking home huge dubs is my man, my personal YouTube idol, Jake Paul, baby. Because Jake Paul is not just content with farming children for money by selling them endless amounts of merch or to watch another fixed fight. Jake Paul has figured out how to make the real cash by rolling out a new line of skincare and shampoo for young men called W. W's in the chat, please, if you're going to go to Walmart to buy this. The reason I find this interesting is not because of his reasons, which he said, I want to make a new line that doesn't contain unhealthy stuff, quote. I can tell he's passionate about skincare. The reason I'm interested is because YouTubers used to primarily make money from merch. That was like the only way they could monetize or productize their fan base. But ever since the rise of The Rock's tequila and George Clooney's tequila, and lately, of course, Mr. Beast's Feastables, every big YouTuber is trying to switch into products where they can get a much higher margin and make a lot more money. What I thought was so interesting is why skincare? Apparently there's a great margin in skincare because not only is Jake Paul jumping in, but John Legend launched a skincare brand, Pharrell launched a skincare brand, and even the fucking Rock launched a skincare and hair care brand, which I have to give a dub for the audacity because he literally doesn't have hair, including this line, my hair would have loved this 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner. That is audacious marketing. Who is going to buy the Rock shampoo? How could he possibly endorse that with any confidence? But maybe you need it. Maybe all you gamers out there, you greasy gamers, need to start using skincare and hair care products from The Rock or Jake Paul or whoever to go on dates because we are not having enough dates and we're certainly not having enough children. The world is going through a baby crisis. All of you incels out there are part of the problem. Now, we've known about this for a while. We've talked about it for individual countries, but it really is stark when when you zoom out and look at the global birth rate. In all developed countries, it is down dramatically. We are below the replacement rate in like every developed country, which means so many countries are going to be shrinking and having inverted demographic pyramids where there's too many old people and not enough young people. Now, the US is bad, but not nearly as bad as some of East Asia, like South Korea. And the worst of all is Japan. Japan was the pioneer of not fucking, and their birth rate fell to a new low for the 8th straight year. Not only is the birth rate dropping, but even marriages are dropping. The entire social fabric is falling apart as too many old people try to survive off too many young people, and the weight is crushing. The number of Japanese is shrinking dramatically. Again, this is population increase, decrease in Japan. Look how it's growing every single year until about 2002, and then shrinking more every single year. And so Japan is the first country trying to come up with a solution. We have a critical situation. The next 6 years are the last chance for us to reverse the trend. Again, if they don't turn this around, it's like the end of Japan as a functional society. So what are they doing? They've created a government dating app. A government-controlled dating app to try and get people out there to have sex and have babies. This is the attempt. And what's so funny about it is it includes, for some reason, AI. We may be cooked, folks. But one more thing out of Japan might find the solution. Do you guys remember when I talked about Masayoshi-san, the crazy billionaire out of Japan who runs SoftBank? He's always wanted to be on the cutting edge of tech, and what they're investing in now for AI is truly crazy. SoftBank is developing an AI that will filter your voice when you're talking to customer service and make you sound less angry to them. The emotion canceling voice conversion engine. And an example would be like this. Maybe it's a good thing to stop people from screaming at customer service. I could see the benefits. Again, customer service is a brutal job that can really make you burn out on humanity. However, some Redditors who are actually working in customer service chimed in. This guy said, as someone who's worked in several call centers, let me just point out, there is no way faster to escalate a call than to try and calm the person down. If the angry person on the other end of the call thinks you're trying to placate and push them off somewhere else, they're only gonna get more pissed. This feels like, to me, there was all those workers at Foxconn in China who were killing themselves by jumping out of windows because the work was so grueling and depressing. And in response, the company decided to put up nets. It wasn't to change anything about the work or the hours or the pay. They just put up nets. That's what this feels like to me. If the customer's frustrated, this is not gonna fix it or make their problem better. But why I included this and why I thought it was so hilarious is back when I was working at NVIDIA, we had to do April Fool's jokes. And I believe it was 2017 or 18. I recorded this as a joke about the future.
Get Ron's patented rage converter technology.
Oh my God! I got a question. How did the 4 biggest morons on
Rage converter activated. Great work, team. This has been a stimulated confrontation.
They literally did it! They literally made it real! I wrote it as a joke for the stupidest thing you could do with AI. And Masayoshi-san made it real. So we can only imagine what more insane things are coming as this $100 trillion AI bubble continues. But as you know, no matter what it is, we'll be here to inform you about it on Marketing Monday. Thanks for watching.